Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Brenda Schuler. She is from Sistas Salon and Academy. It is her first time on the show, so first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sistas Salon and Academy. It is what its name says. It's a salon. It's an academy. It's a school.
Yes,
Tell us all about it. How'd you get started, by the way? First of all,
how we got started? I got started with my husband.
Okay.
Isaiah Schuler. He was in the industry from '81 until his death in 2012.
He was a cosmetologist.
He was a cosmetologist.
Okay.
He had Ebony and Ivory and then Sistas Salon. So he traveled all over the United States working for companies such as Paul Brown of Hawaii. And he would go around the country teaching folks how to do chemicals. And he was a long hair specialist. So he taught cutting classes.
You know, cosmetology, you might not think off the bat, you think more of a women's profession, but that's not the case at all,
No,
is
it's
it?
not.
Yeah.
Cosmetology is for men and for women. As a matter of fact, I think more women like to get their hair done by men than by women themselves. So.
And cosmetology isn't necessarily just hair. It's makeup. It's a lot of things, isn't it?
It's hair, it's makeup, it's the barbering profession, esthetician. In the field of cosmetology, you can go into any division of it, any subdivision of it that you like,
Right.
and make that your own. Like, for example, if you love makeup as a cosmetologist, that could be your field. And you can work with companies, like MAC, and become a distributor or become a sales agent for them, and just move along in your chosen field.
So if you decide you want to be a cosmetologist, there are so many different directions, career paths that you could take,
Yes,
right?
there are dozens of career paths that you can take.
Now, your career is interesting as far as Sistas Salon and Academy, but before we get into that, you're also a nurse too, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so you started out in that first, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I started out as a nurse. I'm a nurse cosmetologist.
Are there many of those?
It's interesting the parallels between
Is that
the two
right?
fields. Yes, because even in nursing, there's an element of education, the element of hands-on care, and to be that touch element in nursing, and that's the same element in hairdressing.
Okay.
Right? Because as you can imagine, you give a lot of yourself to a hairdresser.
Right.
A lot of confidence.
Right.
All right. To
You
put your head in
allow
that
them
thing.
to take control, and they create, and
That's it.
and your fate is in their hands.
That's
A
it.
nurse,
That's it.
or a hairdresser, right? Yeah.
That's it. Yes. With cosmetology, your hair is one of your most prized possessions
Right.
as a client.
It's a lot of times it's like what the first person
That's
people
it.
see. Yeah.
So if you are giving control over to the stylist, if they take too much hair, if they ruin your hair, that is a lot of how people associate themselves.
And they have a real bad day if they're not
Yes.
happy with the end result.
No.
Right?
So for cosmetology and for nursing, a lot of things, as I said, is a parallel. Keeping a confidence. As a nurse, you keep a confidence.
Right.
And in this field, when people come to their stylist, they share a lot of information. And so through school, we in our training, we also train them you have to keep got to zip the lip kind of thing. You
Right.
cannot share that information.
But be a good listener, though,
have to
right?
be a good listener. That's
So
one of
it's
the
like your
things.
bartender and your hairstylist. You're telling a lot of personal.
That's it.
In those fields, you're learning a lot about people because
learn a
they're
lot.
talking, right? Yeah.
They talk. It's a lot of
Personal
with
stuff.
communication,
Yeah.
all right? Because you have to be able to talk with your client, consult with them, find out what their needs are.
Make them feel
listen,
comfortable too,
feel
right?
comfortable. Have them have some reflective listening so that they know that you heard them, because we've all had horror stories where people have said, "Oh, I went in and I told them I only wanted an inch taken off, and then I came out with 5 inches taken off." All right, but that's because the communication broke down.
Right.
So a big part of the training is in learning how to communicate with other people.
And if you have that kind of bond with somebody where the communication is there and they feel comfortable talking, particularly about personal things, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that builds your clientele right there.
And that's
right?
one of the most important parts of the training also, is training the young stylist, the young apprentice, new apprentice, how to create that clientele base,
Right.
and how to keep the clientele base once they've established one. Because that's really one of the biggest parts of this industry is cultivating that clientele base. Without it, you can't make any money. And
Right.
so,
yeah, you have no
you
business,
have no
right?
business.
But how did you transfer your your skills as a nurse? How is it that you decided you were going to be a nurse, and then, you know what, I'm going to switch over to this field? How did that happen?
That kind of happened just naturally
Really?
because
Does that have
coming
something to do
onto
with
the
your
floor,
husband,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
coming onto the floor, working with Isaiah, just in talking with the clients and getting involved with their lives, and then he'd say, I need someone to shampoo. All right, you get into the salon, and now you have 20 people waiting, and you don't have enough staff. So as we started to go down the journey, it was, well, how come the new students that are coming out, the stylists coming out, don't know how to do this, or don't know how to do that, or don't know how to speak to clients, don't know how to develop a clientele base, don't know much past the basics? And from that, we started talking about developing the school. And that's how the school came into play. And then in doing the school, I learned more and more and got more technical skills.
Right.
And then I got my license in hairdressing.
You haven't necessarily given up nursing, though. It's always going to be there for you. That's a skill that you're going to have and use forever.
I actually am a nurse. I
Yeah.
still work as a nurse. I work with the VNA, Hamden, visiting nurses, and I'm proud to be a visiting nurse.
Nice.
And go out and, again, I think the biggest part of this is in helping others in our community.
Do you ever, as your role as a nurse, go somewhere and then you're there in your nurse capacity and go, I could do so much with that hair right there, because you have that training too, right?
Well, what happens is if on the floor there's a client that needs any assistance or help, I'll help them with that.
Multifaceted.
But multifaceted, yeah. But most of the time, what usually happens is I'll refer them out to one of the local stylists, or one of the things that we do at our school is we go into nursing homes and we will do the hair and makeup and nails for the residents. And so we do that at the local nursing homes, we do that at the homeless shelters. So we go out into the community to help other folks. That's part of mandated for our students, that they have to do that.
And how great, like you mentioned, the residents or the homeless folks, how great do they feel after they get, a little haircut or a little makeover or something in that vein that just, pick them up? Maybe they can use that opportunity to, if a homeless person can maybe go out and try to, get employment because they look good, and that's the start of something special.
It's all about making sure that we give back and that we help one another to succeed. You can't go too far in life without helping one another. My dad used to always tell us, I don't know what I don't know. So if, there are people out there in the community, they don't know where to go, all right? So part of this profession, nursing and cosmetology, is giving that information to our clients. So when we go out or when they come in, we have information about financial literacy, we have information about healthcare needs, because a lot of this information people will not get on their own. All right, they have to be introduced to it. And for the minority community, Black and Hispanic community, they get a lot of their information from church, and they get a lot of information from a barbershop or a beauty salon.
Local places where people gather and talk intimately, talk personally, right?
Right, and share information, and so that they feel comfortable with you, and you can pass on the information. And a lot of it is life-giving information. We work with the Diabetes Association, for example, and so we will do testing, and that's where my nursing comes in. So we would do diabetic foot checks, blood pressure checks, all right, and give them that information so that they can then move on to, if there's any issues or problems, they can move on.
So one of the reasons you put this school together was you realized, you and your husband, that some of the other schools, maybe they train you and teach you the basics, but then what? Then you're kind of just like tossed out into the wilderness.
Out into the wilderness.
And with what? No clientele, no job at that point. And so it's more than just learning what to do inside the classroom, but like you've been talking about, all the things you do out in the community and how to go about establishing a clientele, getting a job, getting involved in the community.
It's about networking.
Yeah.
All right. So part of the course is learning to network. Part of it is learning about financial literacy. What do you do as a stylist, a new stylist coming off the floor, when you may only have 5 clients to begin with? And how do you develop that clientele base? How do you move forward? And in this day and age, when computer knowledge and computer technology is so important, all right, you need to be able to understand the dynamics of that, and so that's included in our program, so they know how to use a computer, how to go onto the internet, how to use Facebook, how to use Twitter, how to promote themselves
Right.
on the social
And
networks.
that's so important nowadays too, the promotion. And that's not just having a website, but social media is so important because that's where the people are. You can like something, you can follow somebody, you can be their friend, and you have a little bit of a following just on social media.
And there's so much that you can learn on the internet, but then you also have to be careful because not everything on the internet is,
Not everything
truthful.
you should believe
That's
on
right.
the internet.
So what we stress when students come on board is one, that they have to hone in on their skills. So for cosmetology, for example, it's a 1,500-hour program that's mandated by the state of Connecticut. After the first 200 hours, then students can go onto the floor and work on friends, relatives. At Sistas, we push the students to develop their own business cards, go out into the community, bring people in. They have to do 10 clients a week. We push them to do 10 clients a week. That's their goal.
And that's people that they bring in.
People that they bring in.
Okay.
Not that they always meet their goal,
Right.
but they have to get out and feel comfortable while they have us as a safety net. On our floor, we have our instructors have at least 20 years experience. They either own their own salon or barbershop, or they've had 20 years plus experience. We have divas, for example, in Meriden, Connecticut, Charlene Sessions. She is one of our lead instructors, and so she comes onto the floor to teach the students. We have a local barbershop. We have Top Hat, that's owned by Gary McCoy, 20 years in the industry. Willie C's out of New Haven that just came on board, and they've been in the industry since the 80s.
Wow.
All right, so
Things have changed too a lot since then.
Well, they change and stay the same. All right, quality service still
that's always,
the
yeah.
same, and then the techniques may change, but not very much. You'd be surprised at how the techniques stay the same. So if you learn, how to hold a clipper, how to hold the shears, all right, the angle of the haircut. Once you learn those basics, then you can move on to do other services. We do a lot with platform work because that's how you're going to advance in the industry, and that's how you're going to learn in the industry, all right, by watching a platform artist talk about what they're doing so that you learn while you're watching them, all right, and so that's what we have our apprentices do on the floor too. They have to learn how to become a platform artist before they graduate off the floor, all right, because we have there's a two-way street for us. All right, we have to honor the needs of the individual apprentice, but also the needs of the salon owners and barbershop owners because they're looking for quality students to come off the floor.
Yeah.
So they're looking for students that not only know how to cut hair, but know the value of client communication, know the fact that they're going to be not just a 9 to 5 when they get off. How do they communicate with their fellow employees? How do they handle working with the new technology? All those things kind of rolled up into one is what we need to do.
It's not just about cutting hair and putting makeup on, that's
not
for
anymore,
sure. Let's take a short break and come right back. Why don't you give the website out for people to go and learn more?
Our website is sistasacademy.com.
All right. Brenda Schuler, Sistas Salon and Academy. We'll take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Brenda Schuler. She is from Sistas Salon and Academy. We had you give out the website going into the break. What's on the website for people to learn and see?
Well, on the website, there's some of the student work is on the website. Also, information about the school. We, at Sistas, we have a barber program, and that is a 1,000-hour program in clock hours. We have the cosmetology program, the standard program, which is 1,500 hours, and the esthetician's program, which is 600 hours. So they can go online and they can get more information about each of the different programs. They can contact us to get additional information. It's just general information about the field that's up there.
There is still a need for an old-fashioned barber as opposed to going into like a more fancy salon and getting your hair styled and cut and all that stuff. Some people just enjoy just going into a barber shop, right?
Some people just enjoy going into the barbershop.
Yeah.
All right. Men in particular,
Right.
there's just some kind of affinity they have with the barbershop.
Like their club, their
They're-
private club.
They
yeah.
they go in and I guess they can really relate to each other
Right.
inside the barbershop. At our school, we actually have a number of barbers on the floor, and so the guys come in, and it's just another language, and it's a language that's unique to the barbershop.
Right.
All right.
Do you understand it?
I kind of understand it. All right. But you know, we've like for example, we just had a gentleman from Willie C's come in, one of the owners, and he said it's a culture. It's a culture, and men come in, and it just depends on how you run your business. All right, you can run it the old-fashioned way,
And you're going to get that kind of clientele.
you're going to get that. Well, you're going to get all the clients
Right.
because they have clients that age from children to seniors, right? But it just depends on what vibe you want to throw off to your clients. And I think in a lot of the old-style barbershops, customer service is the key.
Right.
All right. The younger guys, I don't know if they understand that as much, all right, but I think it is gravitating towards that. You know, my oldest is 27, my second oldest is 25. And one of the things that I hear from them is service. Men want service,
Yeah.
all right? They want to be able to get in and get out. They don't want the long wait times anymore. They want to go into a establishment that understands their needs, all right? And that barber has kept up to date with his skill set.
Right.
All right. And if he's done that, then he's going to be fine.
Now, here's another important factor, and you mentioned this to me off the air, and I want to talk about it. When someone is considering going to school, cosmetology, barber, whatever, is tuition. That's just a fact. Money is a fact of life. And you came up with a novel idea when you realized that other schools and how much money you have to drop down right off the bat before you even doing anything else. Talk about that.
Well, it becomes prohibitive of some students to be able to go to school. All right, when you're talking for families, middle income families, low income families, they don't have $2,000 or $3,000 just to plop down in the beginning to go to school. Then kids, they lose interest,
Yeah.
they lose heart.
Well, I can't even
all right?
afford this, so I'm
They
not
can't
even going to
afford.
bother.
All right, so what we've done, because we have industry leaders working with us, the students do not have to come up with that large amount of money. They come in, they pay a $50 application fee, and there's a registration fee of $100. And then, depending on their income, we go down as low as $140 a month. So the students pay $140 a month, and they continue to pay that amount even after they graduate. It takes only 10 months to graduate from the program. So if you do the math, you know that they have not paid the total amount of tuition. At Sistas, the tuition is $18,000, a little over $18,000 for the tuition. So after a year, you've only paid,
Right.
$1,400.
Right.
All right.
Something is reasonable.
Right. But that is our commitment to our apprentice. Our commitment that when you graduate from our program, you're going to work with one of our partner salons or barbershops, and that you have the skill set necessary to succeed in the industry, and that we're going to keep working with you even after you graduate to make sure that you're successful. I think that's what makes us different than most of the schools in the industry, that once you graduate, you're out, that's it. Our students, for example, if you come full-time day, you still are obligated to come during the evening at least 2 times out of a 6-week period to come in the evening, because we want you to understand that the field of hairdressing and barbering is not a 9-to-5 job. In the beginning, you're going to be out there from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, all right, because you want to be there when the clients are there,
Right.
so that you can grab your clientele base.
Let's talk about some of these books you have on the table here.
Well, the first book that you pointed to is our barber book, which is My Lady barbering book. That's the textbook that the barbers are using, and then we have the My Lady book. All right, and they're both from the My Lady company, Senegage, all right, that put out the books for cosmetology. My Lady is the leader in the industry. We work closely with them. We do our online programs through them also, so that our students come on board. They're able to read the books online. They're able to do a lot of the online assignments. We work with, we're a Google Classroom, so we do a lot with our students in making sure that we can touch base with them. We have on our floor, for example, Royce Hatfield. She's our educational coordinator. She is a 6th-year teacher, and so she comes into the program with her expertise where she determines if the student is a visual learner or an audio learner or a combination of both. If a student has had issues and they have an IEP, then she sits down with them to determine what's necessary to be successful on the salon and school floor.
Well, these are thick books too,
Yeah,
both
yeah,
of
they
them.
are.
There's some heavy duty reading there.
Yeah.
And you are out. You mentioned this. You are out in the community. You are, like you said, homeless shelters, rest homes, bridal shows, anything where there's exposure for the school, but also the students and potential clients down the road. You're going to be there. Right?
We try, because what we stress to our students is that we all have to give back. So each student has to give back, staff members give back, and that helps them to network, get out and talk with people, and to establish a clientele base. We have done 3 movies as a school where the students have gone out and worked with young directors, young producers. One of those movies is called Temp by a wonderful young producer, Dasheen Amin, and she did a movie that focused on sex trafficking. All right, and so we went out and we did the makeup and some of the hair for that, because we want our students to realize that there are other disciplines that they're going to be able to work in, and the motion picture industry is one of those disciplines that
it could be lucrative
that
too.
Very lucrative to them if they learn how to handle the makeup for movies, which is far different than the makeup for theater.
Right.
All right, and so we handle and we teach that also at the program.
People should also know that the salon and the academy, multicultural, regardless of your race. Right?
Right.
No matter.
We're actually very proud of that.
Yeah.
All right. We're one of the
tell
few
the world about
schools
that.
in Connecticut that is actually a multicultural. And when we say multicultural, that means our stylists, all of our stylists, work on all hair textures. We don't just have Caucasian stylists working on Caucasian hair and black on black hair.
You want everybody to be able to grab any client that comes in. If they sit down in the chair, you need to be able to work on it, regardless of what your background is.
Regardless of what the background is, because again, you're here to service the client.
Right.
And we're here to be there for the client. So that's what we teach them. We work with companies. Aquage is one of our product lines. And we work with all professional products. That's different also in our school than a lot of other schools, where we work with these product companies. So when the product companies, by working with them, they come in and they also work with our students.
Finally, what can you do with my hair? What would you do? How would you style it differently? This is get popular now. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We give you the warm towel. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we loosen you up.
Pores,
We give you the massage,
Ooh,
and then we give a
nice.
shoulder massage.
Oh, I love it
So you
already.
get all of that.
Yeah.
The hot lather machine we would put on and do.
And
we
a
do
nice blade go right down to the chrome.
That's
right
it.
there. And do you get a lot of clients that?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Wow.
The guys like to either to use the razor, all right, and to come in and learn how to use the razor. And we get clients that you'd be amazed how many men that come in and they want the clean shave.
Right.
They want a clean shave on their face and on their head.
I can't grow much facial hair, so I got to keep it clean.
Yeah.
It just looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, these heads behind us here, there's an example of what gets worked on.
Well, let's get work done. We learn how to do braiding. All right. We are natural hair. So for our black clientele, which is really important to our black clients, that we know how to do chemicals so that we can straighten the hair, such as this mannequin has straight hair, or we can leave it in a natural state. So we teach them how to do that. Lots of folks want to learn how to do braiding. So we do braiding on black and white hair. Hair is hair,
Right.
all right? We just have to learn what to do with the different textures of hair.
And what the client is comfortable
And what the
with.
client's comfortable with. So we do a lot with braiding. And that's one of our big things that a lot of kids like to do now. And in color, and that's the big
Right.
rage too, and doing the different colors.
Right.
So
We learned a lot today. Brenda Schuler, Sistas Salon and Academy, we wish you all the success. I hope to see you out and about more with all the great work that you do out in the community. Appreciate it. Thank you very
Thank you
much,
very much for having me.
being on the show today. You can see this show, by the way, and many others on our YouTube site. Till next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.